listening to The Doctor's Corner with Dr. Kline and Janelle Elgaway.
Good evening, Nation, and welcome to the Doctor's Corner with Dr. Kline. I'm your host, Janelle Elgaway. If you have a question for tonight's guest or for Dr. Kline, please call in at 415-915-2291 or call 1. You can also chat live with our audience on our YouTube channel, Conspiracies Against Wellness Livestream. Tomorrow night, we have guest Kate Nicholson with us. She's not only a Harvard-schooled civil rights attorney, Kate has also given TED Talks, and she is a chronic pain patient. You won't want to miss tomorrow's show. So tonight's topic is advocacy. I know we have a lot of CPPs that listen in and are wanting to know how to advocate to lawmakers or reach out to the media. I'm here with Dr. Kline tonight. Hello, Dr. Kline. How are you this evening?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. And we are also here with special guest Valorie Hawk. Welcome to Con Nation, Valorie. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks, Janelle, for having me and Dr. Kline.
Well, we are really happy to have you. So, Valorie, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of background about you.
Okay. I was one of those, geek little kids who loved Schoolhouse Rock on Saturday morning. How a bill became a law. And I got involved probably about in middle school with, running for student offices. And, fighting the administration to try to make, better school lunches and things like that. Once I got to college, I started doing internships. I interned for our state house here in Olympia, Washington. I lobbied for my student union at University of Washington. I went to D.C. and interned on Senator Ted Kennedy's labor subcommittee. And then I interned for a congressman from Iowa. And then I got on a real job with a senator from Ohio. And then eventually I came back to Washington State and worked for a senator here in Seattle.
Wow, that is quite a very overachieving history. That's amazing. So why were you always interested in advocating? How did you start getting into that?
Well, I never really thought about it as advocating. I just thought about it as making things better. It just never really dawned on me that was advocating. It was just kind of doing what people should do to make things better. And then when I had a special needs son, things changed, and I got more into advocating for special needs. And so it's kind of switched around from different things, but it's always just kind of been a part of my viewpoint.
Mm. Now, you're from Washington, and I know a lot of CPPs out there know Washington is basically the ground zero for what is going on with in our communities concerning the opioid issues and stuff like that. And I've heard you have a few actual prop members from there, too. Would you like to talk a little bit about what is going on in Washington in case of those that want to know and don't know?
Right. It's a mess here, and it has been. This started here almost 10 years ago with Gary Franklin from the UW and some hospitals that were concerned with overdoses of Medicaid and workman's comp patients. Eventually, they got through to our legislature, where we had from what I've been told, there was a pretty good bill, and then the University of Washington and the Senate Republicans took it over the top. That was how my doctor, Frank Lee, from the Seattle Pain Center, now closed, described it to me. And then we went on. We had a second bill. We had a third bill. I was sent to pain management about 6 years ago, where they immediately started tapering most of us. If you could call it tapering, it was pretty abrupt for a lot of us. And even though there's a legacy clause here, like Maine has their palliative care exemption, we still have federal Trump state, so we still have, as we all know, the CDC, the DEA, and now Medicare.
What is a legacy clause, in case somebody doesn't know?
That grandfathers those of us in that are already on opioid treatment and they were not to take us down off of that. It basically was supposed to protect us.
Why is Washington the hotbed or the ground zero of all this? Do you know?
I would say because of the University of Washington, with Gary Franklin, No Pain Jane Valentine, as I call her, Mark D. Sullivan, and I guess it's Talbot. I think he's number 4. I don't know. There's so many of them. They are true zealots, and they just, from what it looks like, they want to see all of this type of medication gone. And now, I know Mark D. Sullivan was at one of our opioid prescribing committee meetings talking about the evils of benzos, and not just benzos and opioids, but benzos. And so that seems to be it appears to be their next target. They believe in mindfulness and all of that.
So if you're wanting to reach out to lawmakers and media, you've done this, for quite a while now. How do you initially reach out to people? How do we start, making changes? Because I know so many of us, we want to do something, but we don't know how to do it. So can you start out by telling us how to even start doing this?
Sure. Well, to make a meeting is really easy. For most senators and congressmen, there's a portal on their websites where you can just request a meeting right through there. You don't have to call them or anything. I think most of them just have, they want the issue and maybe a little bit of what you want to talk to them about. And if they don't have a portal on there, you can just call and ask when the next time they're going to be in town and if they're taking meetings. A lot of the times you end up with a staffer, like what, my old positions. And that's not, it's not necessarily a bad thing to talk to a staffer because they're the ones that actually do most of the work. The elected official, they can't be experts in everything. Mm-hmm. So the staff does an awful lot of the work. And then, you can also write to them and request a meeting, but I think it's better to do it through the portal or call them than actually just write for a meeting.
Well, and Dr. Kline, I know we've talked about this a lot too. What do you think about all this? Like, what do you think about staffers and or talking to the senators or whatever? What do you prefer to do?
I actually prefer to talk to the staffers because they'll listen. They have a little longer to listen. And they're going to then present a nice, condensed, political type message to the congressman or senator. So I think it's actually a good system to get started. And if the senator or representative then thinks it's a good idea, then you can make an appointment with them.
Okay. What is the difference of how you advocate between lawmakers and media? Is there a difference, Valorie?
I would say yes. From what we've been told, even by various reporters who've kind of been in our ears, is that we want to place stories right into the reporters' laps. We want to get the most horrific, goriest of our stories and have those patients ready to talk to the reporter and give them all the best research, all the best articles. Now that there's more pain patient stories out there, 5-6 months ago, it was all on addiction and the evils of opioids. Now we have pain patient stories. And a really good thing to do, especially with the media, is make sure you link the George Knapp Share Our Pain series. That really encourages the reporters once they've seen somebody else do a full-scale story like that, and they know they have pain patients in their communities. So you want to link that. You want to compile some really good research and articles, like things from Dr. Kline, Josh Bloom, Dr. Fuden, Cortez, all of our good guys on our side, and prepare that. We in the organization I run, the Coalition of 50 State Pain Advocacy Groups, we're updating all of our information. Such a fluid, changing issue that we're trying to gather large numbers of people so we can go in as groups, because numbers is what we need a lot of speaking up. And so we'll help you with that. And there's other organizations that will help you as well. You'll get the best articles, prepare you to go in as a group. And give them a packet of information, and then you don't have to explain it all because you just don't want to, you're not going to have, like Dr. Kline said, you're not going to have a whole lot of time, and especially if you're with a senator or a congressman, and they could get called out any minute. If you're in D.C., they could get called for a vote, they could get a phone call. So your meeting could be really short with the elected official.
Okay. Well, and I know Dr. Kline and I have gone to D.C. together before, and I know, Valerie, you've done a ton of this as well. So when somebody's prepping, and so say they reach out and they get a meeting with somebody, and wherever it is, how does someone prep prior to speaking with that person? Like, what information should they bring in? What are they talking about? All of it. If you could kind of go
first what you want to do is you want to really have a good patient history. You want to write up, and make it, it's hard for a lot of us that have, years or decades of illness and injuries. But you want to, you don't want, 2 or 3, 10 pages of your ailments. You want a nice patient story that includes, your diagnosis, what the different therapies you tried, physical therapy, occupational therapy, yoga, whatever it's been. You want to talk about the non-opioid regimens you tried, NSAIDs, all of that. Okay. And then you want to, explain that pain management and medication was really a last resort. For most of us, we didn't just jump on medication. It was something at the end of the line, basically. And a lot of us are incurable. And so you want to have a nice patient story ready to go. And you want to have that ready to go all the time. So, so you can adapt it to who, if you're sending to media, to a congressman, if you're going to speak at a hearing, you want to have that ready to go. And then you want to have your, some of your best articles by the authors I mentioned, and have that all together. And, explain, you want to mention, I don't know, you're not going to change the CDC guidelines in one letter, but you want to, mention they weren't written for chronic pain. They were written in secret by non-pain management doctors, by zealots. And you want to, put that together. And then if you're going to be speaking, you want to really practice. Practice it over and over, memorize it if you can, and get it down as short as you can, because you want to get your point across, but you want to leave some time for discussion so they can ask you questions.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Kline, do you have anything else that you would like to add to that? What you believe would be great?
No, that was very excellent coverage. It's perfectly okay to take somebody with you if you're nervous, or you could take another pain patient, but take somebody along, and it's okay to have little note cards. The folks in the offices are used to the fact that people are not used to coming to the office. And so it's perfectly all right to have little note cards to help you with your little introduction. But Valerie's point is real important. You need to ask them how long you have. Mm-hmm. And if they say 30 minutes, then you want to wrap up what you have to say and have your handouts ready in 15 minutes, I would say, because you want to allow them to ask questions. And by them asking questions, you can then figure out what they're looking for. And then you can add to that.
Okay. We have a question from YouTube. Lovett says, if you're disabled, do you think that they would come to you?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Valerie, what do you think?
Maybe they would Skype. I'm not sure. That's a really good question.
Well, I know when Dr. Kline and I went to D.C., we had we had Tammy Hale from Vermont. She came in off of a phone call. So because we were meeting with Bernie Sanders people, and she's from Vermont, so that's how we did that. But yeah, I've never even thought about this way either. I wonder if they would or not. They also ask, what type of information do you think is most powerful or to focus on?
Well, one thing I want to mention, too, is we all also need to become, and this goes to the question as well, we also need to become addiction experts, because when we're we're trying to change public perspective and the false narrative that's, running rampant. And so we have to make sure that, we want at least a couple lines in our letters and in our presentations about addiction, and that, it's genetic. We know that it has, implements of childhood, unresolved childhood trauma, socioeconomic factors. We want to include that because that's what people think when you hear opioids.
Okay.
And so that's something we want to include. And, as well as, the best articles and your patient testimony and just having a nice, clean packet put together. And there's a lot of groups out there. There's the big pain organizations, there's our organizations, there's ATIP, there's all kinds of different organizations out there that have a lot of good information put together
and
that will help you.
I just want to let our audience know, too, if you need any of the information that Valorie is talking about, it is under her profile, under her bio. So it's all in there, everything that she is a part of. She gave me links. So if you need it, it's on there. And if you have any questions that you're not wanting to ask on here, just ask me later, and I can always give that to Valorie as well. Okay, so we're talking about how long presentations should be. What are the wrong things to do? Let's start out with the wrong things of when you're calling a senator's office or going into them. What do you not want to do?
Well, first you want to be really calm and really polite. The receptionist or the scheduler, they didn't write the CDC guidelines. And so you want to remember just to be really polite, asking the elected official is going to be there. If it's going to be a while before they're going to be back home in their home state, that's the way it's going to be. You want to be, one of the things that I recommend to people is please don't use the word narcotics or drugs. Our verbiage is really important. And, I don't like the word opioid. It was contrived so they could include heroin and street drugs in it and their numbers. But we really want to watch how we speak and how we talk because we are under a microscope. So when we reach out to these offices, we just want to be really polite and pleasant. You want to make sure you're having a good day when you call. You don't want to appear impaired in any way with slurred speech or, and same especially with speaking with them or going to hearings. You just want to be, the average person calling in to make a meeting.
Yeah, good point, Valorie, about the use of words. Words trigger emotions, and this is a very emotional issue about opioids. And I do not use the word opioid because a lot of people don't know what it is. It actually refers to brain chemicals. I use the word opiate. Opiate is our old-fashioned medical term. And I start off by saying, I take opiate pain medicines. Then I drop the opiate and just say I take pain medicine.
Yeah, that's what I
Because
used to.
there's only one other pain medicine, and the only other pain medicine is Tylenol. So you're safe with saying I take pain medicines. My pain medicines have been reduced. You can say, also people don't understand chronic pain. They think you're faking. So I use the word, I have a painful disease. And then tell what the disease is. I have a painful disease, interstitial cystitis. And then once that's there, later you can just say, my painful disease acts up. I'm uncomfortable. I can't sleep. Try to stay away from the word pain.
Okay.
And even chronic pain, and stick to the newer words. So.
All right. We have a caller.
I also use pain reliever, pain relief. I often use medically fragile and chronically ill. Like Dr. Kline said, too, they are trigger words, and there is just so many negative connotations in everything, in illness, in pain relievers, all of it. It's really unfortunate what we're up against, but it's not impossible to change. It's come to this point, so it means it can be turned back around. So we just have to be careful, and maybe we should make up some of our own words too.
I agree with that one. We have a caller from area code 570. What's your name and where are you from?
Hi, I'm Tori Mingle. I'm from Pennsylvania. Hi, Dr. Kline. Hi, Valorie.
Hi, Tori.
Howdy.
I just want to thank you because even though I actually have been working under Valorie for some time, you guys have given me a few points that I didn't even consider, which were to actually go for the aides and not exactly the senators and the congressmen themselves. I would go for the aides when speaking with trying to go for the senators and the congressmen, but I didn't really think, well, yeah, they're the ones who do the work, and they could put a good viewpoint out, and I hound them like anything anyway. And also, putting a really good packet. I already have a good packet for the media anyway, but putting more in there about our stories and, the stories of, Dr. Kline and all the other people, and especially I'm going to go with Val. Anybody who can go for the C50, please do so. But I thank you for sharing these because I didn't even think of some of these, and I feel bad because I've been with you for so long. But thank you for sharing because this really helps us. And the key words I feel do help too because we're in a conundrum because we've got to watch our wording.
Thank you, Tori.
So thank you very, very much.
Well, appreciate you calling in.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Right.
Bye-bye.
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 A caller from area code 360. What's your name and where are you from?
Patty Davidson.
Hi, Patty. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
What's your question?
My question is, how do we bring up the issue of illicit drugs being more of a problem of the overdosing versus our pain medication? And do you think that these people realize that it's not pain pills that is really the major problem here, because the media just really put out there that it's pain medicine that is causing all these deaths? And how do we
that's a good point.
That's a really good. That needs to be something in the packets, definitely. There's been some really excellent articles written lately too that have really shown the full scope of things. Maybe some that Dr. Kline can recommend as well that shows the numbers, because this hasn't been here in Washington State. Prescribing's gone down 44% since 2012, and so I mean we all know this is not a prescribing issue, and that's really key, as Patty brought up, and that should be one of the top things in the information packet, as well as things on addiction and how the CDC guidelines came about. But maybe Dr. Kline, can you recommend some of the other good articles in that as well?
Well, there's a couple interesting facts. One is there are 10 million people on long-term pain medicine for their painful disease. There's approximately 1 million people who have addiction disease.
Wow.
It's also a disease. So
right.
I think just kind of putting things in perspective when you're talking to people, say, look, I'm of the group of 10, and there may be one person with addiction, but that's not the same. People with addiction have a different kind of disease. People on long-term opiates almost never become addicted. People on long-term opiates from their doctor almost never have an overdose. When people talk about overdose, you should say, who's overdosing? The answer is 95% of people who are overdosing are overdosing in the streets with various drugs they can get their hands on. So, when people talk to you about addiction, say, wait a minute, I'm not in that group. I'm in the 10 million person group with legitimate disease. Yes, we both take opiates, but we're not the same.
Do you think that it's important? Do you think that it's important to bring that up in a conversation, or just leave that in the packet?
Just leave it to the side. In other words, if it starts to look like you're being classified as a person with addiction, to say, wait a minute. I mean, we got two different things here. We've got 10 times more people in this country taking opiates for their illnesses and their diseases. So let's not mix the two up. In other words, it's a defense thing. If they start to, jump on you. So it's good to have these kind of facts, that it's a 10-to-1 ratio. And yes, both groups have a disease, but they're treated differently.
Right. And come in informed with those numbers is very important.
Yeah.
Because I think that they're just as they don't know. They watch the TV and that's what they see. And that's what they believe.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And that's what they're being shown even in these opioid prescribing hearings in Washington State. The first chart that the co-chair put up was this graph with a red line going up saying opioids. And I stood up and asked, does that include illicit? Well, what does that include? And he said, I don't know. And the whole room grumbled. And so they're still trying to gaslight people, into thinking this. So Patty, that's a really good point. Really good point.
Patty,
and another hip pocket fact is that, I hear that the number of prescriptions has been dropping. Why are the death rates going up?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Great point.
In other words, the other thing to remember is that these staffers and stuff may not have the information, as Valorie just said. So you're there kind of to inform them. So you're there to inform them about your own illness, but you've also got these little facts in your hip pocket that you can spring on them. And that's a very powerful one. As a matter of fact, the CDC did not mention in 2016 when they published their guidelines that for 6 years prior to that, since 2010, the prescriptions had already been dropping off.
Wow.
So where's the logic? Yeah. Wait a minute. What's going on here? And then this year is the highest ever. Oh, wait a minute. We got much lower prescriptions. Now, if you want a real goodie about the prescriptions, ready? The DEA in this country requires us doctors to fill out separate prescriptions for each month. Normally, if I write a prescription, I put down refill times three refills.
Right.
So I write one prescription. The DEA requires us to write 3 prescriptions for the 3 months. In Canada, they only are required to write 1 prescription.
And what would be the point behind that?
They're inflating the numbers.
The federal drug police, that's their rule. If I give you a prescription for pain medicine, I can only do it for 30 days. Whereas in Canada, they could do it for 90 days. So guess what?
Right.
We write 3 times more prescriptions than they do in other countries. That's why we have so many prescriptions.
Dr. Kline, we have a question. Where can people pull up these stats? People are wondering.
Well, it's just a fact, really, that the DEA requires monthly prescriptions and will not allow refills. And it's a fact in Canada that, you can talk to the doctors up there. I spoke to a senior official in the Canadian healthcare system, and he said, no, we just write down refill 3 times.
Okay.
So that's just a new fact I'm giving you. Nobody's have it. So there's a good one you can spring on people. And I put it on my Twitter, and I got 400 people interested in it. So there's a brand new fact for you that nobody's figured out.
Patty,
and I think Twitter is a great place to go to Dr. Kline's Twitter account because he does have great information on there, and that's where I've got a lot of my information.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Kline, what is your Twitter account? Can you let everybody know?
It's just Thomas Kline, Kline.
Okay.
Thomas Kline,
so
MD.
Thomas Kline, MD. Okay, great. Patty, did you have any other questions or comments?
No, I just appreciate your time, and I just think that we need to keep up the fight.
Absolutely.
And just absolutely hang in there and go directly to the source. Instead of using a lot of these Facebook accounts to kind of piss and moan, I think we need to use our energy that we have for advocating and go straight to the source and call these people and do what Valerie's suggesting. And that's about all I have to say.
Well, thank you so much for calling in,
Patty.
Okay, you guys.
Thank you. So we have a question from Facebook Live. What is C50? They want to know, Valorie.
Oh, that's the coalition. It's really long. Coalition of 50 state pain advocacy groups. And we have a state group for every state. My state is Washington Pain Advocacy Group. And we're still organizing because the small team of us at the top, we're chronically ill and in a lot of pain ourselves. And, we've had people drop out, a lot of hospital stays. It's fluid. And the situation's fluid. People come and go. And, so we're building. We need help in every state. We need help at the national organization. We need able-bodied people. We need our loved ones. We need our medical community. We need help with advocating. We need help with running the organization. And so, the C50 is just short for Coalition of 50 State Pain Advocacy Groups.
Okay.
How do you Google that?
Just like that. We have the 50 groups right now are on Facebook. Our website is under construction. It's just c50.org, and we're building that right now. And the links are there on Janelle's page
for
the Facebook groups and for the website.
Yes. So I'm curious about for both Dr. Kline and Valorie, what mistakes have you made when advocating in the past? And because that's how I learn, when I make mistakes. So what did you learn in those mistakes? And what were they? Valorie?
I learned not to blither.
Yeah.
I learned not to blither too much. It's very hard to control yourself when you're speaking, tend to get nervous and go on and on and on. So I watch the person I'm talking to.
Okay.
If they really look interested, then I think I'm on the right track. If their eyelids are starting to get heavy, then I shut up and say, you can always stop and say, now, do you have any questions? But try to be concise. In other words, pretend like you're on a stage, and you've rehearsed your lines and try not to go too far off direction and try to stick to your point, basically.
Okay.
Valorie?
One thing I know I have, and I see it a lot in the pain community, is using acronyms. My PCP sent me to PM because my MME was too high. And they'll be like, what? What's an MME? What's a PM? So you want to be, spell it out, be clear. And like Dr. Kline said, keep it short, keep it on point, watch your words, and just, if you know that, after 3 o'clock you have a big drop and your pain is worse, schedule a morning meeting. Work within the best part of you. One mistake I've made when I was a congressional caseworker, we worked out problems between federal agencies and our constituents. And, was getting emotionally involved. I mean, I would end up dreaming about these cases. And, we're advocating for ourselves, which for a lot of us, it's difficult. It's a lot easier to advocate for other people. And so when you're advocating for yourself, it's really hard not to be emotional and not, when, like I said, when we've got really long histories. I mean, I've been dealing with pain for almost 3 decades. It's a long history. And, like Dr. Kline said, when our eyes start to droop and glaze over, you need to end it up. But just one of the things I would recommend, too, is ask them if they have anybody in pain in their family, a grandparent, somebody in their family, and try to make it personal. Talk, and maybe if, you're talking about your pain or your disease, talk about as well more of what your function, like that you used to take trips and now you can't travel. You used to eat out once a week. Now you're not able to do that. You don't get to your mailbox. You don't get to the shower. Talk about function, because pain makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And like Dr. Kline says, people think you're complaining and it's not real. So it's good to talk about, just the reality of your life and how it impacts you and your family.
Yeah, something I learned from Dr. Kline actually is when we went in and spoke to lawmakers, when you're addressing yourself, not talk about, I need pain medication or whatever, but talk about what happened, like what is your underlying issues, Like, I have CRPS, and when I have a flare, this is what happens. You know what I mean? And I've tried this, and this, and this. That kind of really helped me to kind of keep it in perspective a little bit. We have a question off of YouTube Live. Pamela Olson asks, what is the easiest, fastest way to educate our doctors? Dr. Kline?
Dr. Kline should that one. Yeah. The problem is that we grow up in a culture, in our doctor culture, where we think we know it all. And so when a patient starts to tell us they know something we don't, then we get real irritated. So what I suggest to people is, if you have an article or you have a concern, send it in before your appointment. And let the physician read it ahead of time, rather than springing it on the doctor right there. The doctor's got 2 more minutes of his 8-minute appointment, and now he's got this 30-page paper he's expected to read, or she's expected to read. I guess we do have lady doctors now. Send it in ahead of time. You can fax it or mail it, and just say, FYI, my next appointment is in 2 weeks. That's really the best way. Doctors are funny. We're in a different culture. We go to start school at 18 or 19 at college, and we come out when we're 32 or 3. And during that time, we just have our noses in books, and we don't really learn how to behave outside of our doctor culture. So understanding the doctor culture is good. And so, I have published a palliative care article and palliative care certificate. Most all states exempt palliative care. The CDC exempts it in line 1. So when the patients take in the article in the form, they get these dirty looks, from the doctor. So it's just mail them in ahead of time, put them in an envelope and put $3 on it and send it over there, or drop it off at the doctor's office. And then in the evening, the physician can have time to go through it and read it and think, maybe this is a good idea. And that's kind of the way to approach that. So.
And I have a couple doctors that I've been educating the last year or so that I've been involved in this. And, I'm telling my pain management doctor that, my cousin's wife who has breast cancer is getting Tylenol, or that other members of our Washington State Pain Advocacy group with cancer are only getting Motrin. And the pain doctor was like, well, that's not right. And he was really puzzled. And I didn't know how much really to go into it because I really didn't want to scare him off and tell him, how bad it is out in this country. But and I have another doctor that I started emailing about 15 months ago. And first I made the mistake in sending about 25 links because I was trained as a congressional researcher, so I wanted to get it all in. But then I learned to send, maybe 2 or 3 links of the best articles. And that's if you can get a hold of your doctor's email address. Some are accessible, some aren't. A lot of them have patient portals. But I just started providing some of the articles, and the ones I've come up, across, they were quite surprised by it. Unless they're directly dealing with probably now. I mean, I'm talking about 6 months ago when all we had was addiction articles. I mean, we've really come a long way. I know a lot of people are discouraged, but the narrative is changing. I mean, our voices are being heard. We're being written about. Our doctors are hearing us. The media is hearing us. We just got to get through to Congress. So, but it's important. I mean, we have to have our doctors and our medical community speak up and support us. I mean, I don't think we're going to change policy. Mm-hmm. And we I like to try to be proactive, and I think we really need to, we need to advocate to, implement a national pain policy program. We can't just be reacting all the time. We have to be speaking for something to put us all into the same group, protect our doctors, protect ourselves, and change this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
One of the things I tweeted a long time ago, and I keep reminding myself, this is an opportunity for physicians and patients to work together. Imagine a bunch of picket lines where there's doctors and patients together. They're doing that here in Raleigh for different reasons, but it's called white coat picketing, mm-hmm. where doctors come out in their white coats and support the people that are having difficulties with the government. And there's 2 other ideas that are being helpful. One is to approach TV stations. Each person out there with a painful disease story is very interesting. When I sit in a legislator's office and blither on about the medical stuff, that's not as powerful as listening to a single person's story. And TV stations are picking up on this. I've been surprised. They've been interviewing individual people with painful disease. And then why not get 3 or 4 people together? Call the TV stations, and you make what's called a pitch. And a pitch is a little quick summary of why you think this would be a good story.
That would be a great idea.
Remember, they're looking for stories.
Yeah.
And stories is what everybody listening who has long-term disease has. And you're providing information that these people do not have. And Valorie just provided me with some information that I didn't know, that they're screwing people with at the end of their life. My God, how far has this gone? I didn't realize a lot of that was happening. What, somebody's dying and you're worried they're going to addict? I mean, you can see how seriously prejudicial this all is, but your stories are the key. Now, the second thing that just dawned on me was state medical societies, that's the society of all the doctors and a lot of times PAs, have monthly or bi-monthly meetings, and they're always looking for people to give a talk. So Google your county medical society and say, you know what, we would like to talk to the doctors about what it's like for us as people with painful disease. And I'll bet you a dime they would go for it. So there's something else you can try. Just, whatever county you live in, there's going to be a county medical society.
Okay.
So
we have a nursing student in our Washington State pain advocacy group, and she said there's all kinds of opportunities for pain patients to speak to medical students. So we need to get out there. And then there's also every TV station has tip lines. So if there is an event, you can call the tip line and talk to the scheduler and try to get media out there. to a specific event.
Okay. We're going to take a quick call here. Caller from area code 936. What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Rhonda Posey.
Hi,
I'm
Rhonda.
from Nacogdoches, Texas.
Welcome, Rhonda. What's your question?
Well, I really appreciate the information that's been given so far. Going back to when you bring up addiction, the illicit part of all of this, how important or how do you recommend presenting first responders having to take such precautions when they go out to deal with an overdose? For instance, my daughter is a nurse, and she's being trained to be extremely careful due to powdered fentanyl.
Well, this is, you remember the razor blades and the apples many years ago at Halloween?
Or in your Halloween candy, yeah.
Do you know that? Or in your, you take your bags down and get them x-rayed? Do you know what?
I remember that, yeah.
That wasn't true.
Really?
It wasn't true.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there were no razor blades. It was made up.
Huh.
So, the problem with getting the fentanyl on your hands and everything is not a serious problem, but you can wear gloves, to avoid it. But if you get caught in a situation of talking about stuff like that, just switch it over and say, look, I know there's 1 million people with addiction disease, but I'm one of the 10 million people with chronic painful disease, and so let's stick with that and try to avoid issues like that, because there's so much hysteria out there, razor blades in the candy, that you just can't fight it.
Yeah, and we don't want to push fear, myths, or non-facts, and that's what that is really. So,
Right.
Rhonda,
Right.
Did you have any other
Why
questions?
I was asking. No, that's why I was asking if that should even be brought up at all.
I think
I met a first responder at the first prescribing committee meeting I went to, and I could tell he was really, really upset. And at one of the breaks, I talked with him, and he said at one point, they were getting way more overdose calls than chronic pain patients in distress. And by the middle of summer, it had evened out. And he was I could see really kind of tortured by the chronic pain calls. And he said, we just don't know what to do with them. He said they were not the right people to call. And then it turned out he had an adopted daughter with sickle cell. So he really saw, all the sides of it, the fear of his daughter not being able to get medication, all the overdose calls, and then the chronic pain calls. And one of the ideas we had in the C50 was, we want to advocate, but we also want to educate. And so we have a psychologist and some other disabled professionals trying to work on some information packets for first responders and that who see it firsthand, because we need everybody educated that there's two sides to this, and we need to talk solutions. And like Dr. Kline said, put down the fear mongering that we're all going to addict with one pill, and that the big wave of fentanyl is going to blow over all of us. We need to promote rational thought.
Yeah. And I think something else that Dr. Kline mentioned is, when somebody's talking to you or asking you questions and it's not on what you're wanting to talk about, it's not anything that has to do with you. It is that fear and stuff like that. It's a way to talk. It's almost like a deflecting, or you see it all the time on mainstream media when on the news, when somebody's being interviewed and they don't want to talk about something, if you notice, they always state exactly what they're wanting to talk about. The interviewer can ask something and they'll just keep answering exactly what they want to answer, so.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Rhonda, for calling in. Did you want to add anything else?
And one more thing about your story you just told. Those folks need to go to their legislators. Go to the state legislators. Remember, all politics is local, according to Tip O'Neill. And it's true. You can start off with your state folks. They're more likely to talk to you directly than a federal one who has a lot more business. So tell the stories to the lawmakers. They're the ones in charge. So,
well, Rhonda, thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have another caller from area code 301. What's your name and where are you from?
Hello, this is Mark.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good. What's your question?
My question is, what is the national pain policy that you folks are advocating? I hear you talking about what you're fighting against, but what is the unifying policy that all of you are shooting for?
Well, in my organization, we are trying to get patients to advocate for, we want to all be on the same page, and we've got every state with a different law now.
I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm doing fine.
Hello?
I'm getting feedback there.
Are you?
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Valorie.
So we want to talk about, a uniform policy across the whole U.S., a federal policy that has uniform pain contracts. I mean, we'd love to see the pain contracts go, but they probably won't. It's standardized rules, a reasonable urinalysis, pill counts, one pharmacy, the bells and whistles of those. If that's what we have to put up with, that's what we have to put up with. We'd like to see the palliative care definition worked out. There's a lot of insurers that treat it as hospice, 6 months terminal. It's really not what it's about. We'd like to see the intractable pain diagnostic code tightened up and have the doctors pay a higher fee schedule because they need more time for our complex cases. We'd like to see mandated genetic testing because the CDC and all these state laws act like hypermetabolizing just doesn't exist, that we're all just one number. So we'd really like, I know Dr. Kline, you've got some other things on a national policy as well about medical records and some of the other things we discussed.
Yeah, there's another issue is getting the federal government out of the doctor's office. In addition to what you've just said, there are laws and there are Supreme Court decisions that say the federal government cannot interfere with the practice of medicine. The practice of medicine is governed by the states. The federal government has no right to be interfering with my practice. Oh. And that's the federal law 42 USC 1395 says it real clearly. And there was an old Supreme Court decision called Linder that says the federal government has no right in the practice of medicine. So I would add that to get them out of our examining rooms.
Mark, did you have any other questions or comments?
I guess the question I would have is, where is all that being consolidated at? I mean, it's good when you hear all these different advocates all over the place, but until you get unified and, sort of have a unifying force pushing it in one direction, how do you put all that together? Where is that all getting consolidated at?
It's a good question. That's kind of what we're here trying to do, educate and pull pain patients together on the same page. And there's a lot of different groups, and, we're hoping that, if we can all work together, because there's a lot of different personalities in that, at least we can be on the same page with what we're advocating for. And, we hope that, there haven't been a lot of pain patient-run advocacy groups. We've got the big boys that a lot of us have, they're not pain patient-ran. And so, but we're struggling. We're not healthy, and so it's been a real uphill battle just to get people to speak up. A lot of people were afraid, and it really wasn't until the Medicare restrictions came out that seemed to really kind of wake people up and make them realize, wow, I have to do something about this. So we're really at the point where we have people, more numbers coming in, and that's what we need. I mean, we need, millions of people, and a lot of people are afraid. A lot of people have no idea what's going to happen in January when these restrictions come through, and we don't really know. what's going to happen above 200 MME and how the pharmacists are going to respond. So, it's a fluid situation, and it's kind of what we're here trying to do, pull people together and educate and propose a solution. But we're still a long ways from that.
Dr. Kline, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, that was very well stated.
Mark, would you like to add anything else or any other questions?
No, fine. Thank you very much, and I appreciate what you folks are doing.
Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Bye.
So, we have a few questions here off of YouTube Live. Pamela Olson asks, why is Sessions using the power of the DOJ in this topic then? Like teaching schools, insurance, and AGs are following Sessions' lead and using it as the reason why we are suffering. Valerie, would you like to answer that? Or
yeah, that's
I don't know what's in Sessions' head myself.
All right. How about you, Dr. Kline?
No, I stay out of politics.
Okay.
Who is the Sessions person?
Exactly. Okay, so
there was a guy 30 years ago who ruled the roost. Was the director of the Federal Narcotics Bureau and ruined the American culture by making up lies about opiates, about marijuana. He passed the first federal marijuana law, and it kind of sounds similar
doesn't
to
it?
what I read in newspapers.
Yes, absolutely.
And they're zealots. I mean, they're zealots and they're prohibitionists. I can never say that word. They're anti-opioid zealots, basically. Take an aspirin.
Opiophobia.
Opiophobia. There we go.
Yeah. So, are there any tricks of the trade that either one of you can share with us? Dr. Kline, if you'd like to go first about anything that you've learned or, those little things.
Well, let's do some basics. How do you find out who your representative is? What you do is you just Google who's my representative, in Congress. Who's my state representative? A lot of people don't know their state reps and their senators. I like to go to representatives because they have smaller districts. They tend to listen better. The senators, there's only 2 from the state, and they're just dealing with so many other issues. That's not to say don't go, but look it up on the internet, get their phone number, and call them up. And if you don't want to go in, say, look, I just want to leave a message that I'm a chronic pain patient, or I'm I have this. Always better to say what disease you have. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I'm in a lot of pain. Have been in a lot of pain, and I'm very concerned that the government is interfering with my doctor's medical practice, and I'd like to come and talk to you about it. So find out who it is, and then just call them up. That's what they do. They want to listen to what people say because they will vote for them. See? Politics is all local. Mm-hmm. So don't be afraid to call them up. And they are used to hearing all kinds of stories. So make sure you have a good story. And what I hear from people is everybody really has a lot better story than they realize. So,
Valerie, what would you like to add to that?
Well, first you have to make sure you're talking to the correct people. That they are, like Dr. Kline said, they are your senator or congressman. And then you want to make sure that you're talking to the healthcare staffers. They'll be on the congressional side. You'll have a healthcare legislative aide, and they're the ones that you'll see on C-SPAN that sit behind the senator. And there'll be a legislative correspondent, and that's who you're getting the form letters from. At least now they've changed. They're just not addiction form letters. They now have chronic pain form letters. So that's a positive step. We now need to also target the Senate Finance Committee because they have purse strings over Medicare, and they have a big hearing Thursday morning. So we want to make sure we're targeting the right people. And you also want to make sure that if you are in an advocacy group, that if they give you a template or a form letter, that you're not copying it exactly. Like we used to get thousands of postcards that people would tear out of a, like an NRA magazine or something, and they just sign. Sometimes they wouldn't even sign their name. And so those, we didn't really carry, we count them and tally them, but they didn't carry a lot of weight. So like Dr. Kline said, you want to really have your personal story, and you don't want 10 pages of that. You want it, you want it traumatic, because all of this, being ill is traumatic and being injured is traumatic. So you want to share that, but you want to share it in a way that's believable and will catch their eye and make it real. So if you are in a group, just make sure you're not copying things verbatim, or if you're commenting on a federal docket. There's been a lot of FDA and Medicare and different dockets lately. Just make sure you use your own words, and that's hard. I know a lot of us have brain fog and flares and things that make it really hard to think, but there's a lot of chronic pain groups out there that will help you. And, we have editors and proofers and people that can help you get it together. And so you want to make sure you're targeting the right people, your right congressman, your right senator, your right state reps, the right committees. Maybe sign up for one of the bill trackers and get emails when the bills have hearings. And because there's going to be, unfortunately, there's a lot of things coming up in Congress, and we're really behind. There's always state laws passed. The Congress is just starting on this, and this is where we really, we have to get active. And and those of you that live around D.C., that can get onto the Hill, if you can get there and you can let pain groups know you're going to be there, we can help you when you get there. If you can get there and testify. I'm in Seattle. I can't get out there, and I'm going to be in Hawaii in not long, and then I probably won't ever get to D.C. again. So, but we'll help you, and you can help us, and we can we can work as a group on the same page. But that would be really helpful. So you just want to make sure you educate yourself, and you educate our policymakers. You talk to the right people, and you make sure you're in the best mindset as you can be when you do public comment or when you talk to them.
And by the way, I hope you guys don't mind. We're already at an hour, but our phone lines are going crazy. Do you mind if we take some more calls? And is it okay that we go for an hour?
Sure.
Okay.
Cost you another 25 cents. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, our caller from area code 517. What's your name and where are you from?
Hi, this is Carla, and I'm from Michigan.
Hi, Carla. What's your question?
Well, mine is just a comment for anybody that's out there. I am, a chronic sufferer for over 30 years, and I never thought I would ever get into anything like this. And unfortunately, I knew things were happening because I have a father in the VA and my husband that goes to the VA. And they started cutting medications back on them a couple years ago. And I hear it from people all the time. Oh, it's never going to happen to me. And now everybody's coming out going, oh, I just went to my doctor, and he's only going to give me half of a prescription. And so I just want to say, thanks to Val. I know Valorie has really helped me a lot, and some of the other team members. But they actually got me out there and in front of a camera with the media. I did 3 news articles. And you can do it. You just, if we don't fight for ourselves, nobody else is going to do it.
Well, thank you, Carla.
How did you do that? Did you call them to get them to come out? How did it work?
Well, I sent them a couple emails through their Facebook pages. I just sent them and said, hey, we're having this rally. And, if you would like to talk to us, I'd love to have you, or inviting you to come out, come check us out, see what we're doing. And I just had one reporter call me back out of the 6 that I talked to and sent emails to and letters to. And he came out, did a personal story on me, just my story. And they ran it on a Thursday. Our rally was on a Saturday. And by Saturday, I had 3 other stations show up, because
Excellent.
There's this thing among the news people that, wait, we can't let them up us on a story. Wait a minute.
Exactly.
As they heard the one channel was doing it, then all of a sudden I got the other channels were like, oh, hey, wait a minute, and then I started getting calls all night Friday night going, are you going to be there? What time is it going to be? Can I talk to you? And so, but for, the people out there that just go, and, and I'm sick. I'm in a okay place right now. I have my good years. I have my bad years. I have my good days, my bad days. But, don't ever think you can't do it, because I never thought I could. And the minute somebody sat there, and then you see your friends around you, my husband's pain medicine cut, and my dad, who suffers from Agent Orange effects and stuff like that, his pain medicine cut. And then you go, okay, this is really happening. And then people start really going, oh, went to my doctors, and I never thought it would happen to me. And so, just have
so
faith
it started
in
off with just emails to the reporters. That's a good tip for everybody. You don't have
just email,
get
and
on
I went on their
Yep.
Yeah, and I went on their Facebook pages and just sent them a message, just sent them a post saying, hey, how about this, because they're always looking for stories.
And like we've been told, have it ready for them. Have those patient stories ready. The most, and that's what's really effective about being in a group in your area. It's why I started the state pain advocacy group, so we could get people together in their own state. I mean, the resources just the support of knowing other people. A lot of us have never really met any other people like us, and that's a huge support. And then to be able to go out to these things together and meet with reporters together, but to get those stories together and find people. You can find people, other pain patients through Yelp reviews of doctors. I track down a lot of Washington people, roll calls in Facebook support groups. Just finding other pain patients so you can get, present a number of stories to the reporter. You guys did great out there in Michigan, by the way. You guys, we're really proud of you.
Also, from my perspective of practicing for 4 decades now, this is the worst healthcare crisis in my 40 years. And you know what? This is going to go down as the worst healthcare crisis ever in the history of medicine. There are 5 to 6 million people currently being tapered. That's a lot.
And where are they? Are they all at home on their couches? Where are they? They're not speaking up.
Well, a lot of people.
I mean, we're starting to, but
a lot of people are afraid if they speak up, they're going to be labeled as a person who takes opiates.
Yeah.
Right.
And therefore, they become targets for thieves and people that would like to grab hold of their bottle of Percocets and get $1,000 for them. So, and a lot of people are just too sick. I keep saying, why don't everybody get out there and picket? And then people started pointing out to me, they're too sick to picket. And then if they get out and picket, they're going to be labeled as an opiate taker, opiates at home. So this is a real problem. And that's why we're trying to, speak for people that can't get up. And your example of getting a hold of the reporters and stuff is real good. People just need the courage, to realize you're not alone. 5 to 6 million people, and that's a good figure, by the way. It's 60% of the 10 million people are actively being tapered. This is horrible. This is really horrible. And it's a very shameful thing that physicians are hiding under their desks with their hands over their heads, afraid of the DEA. And I understand that, because when we lose our jobs as doctors, that's it. What do we do next? Chop firewood? Drive a cab? But still, doctors can get together. And it's important that patients sit down with their doctors and say, Doc, let's turn this conversation around. What can I do to help you? So,
Carla, would you like to add anything else or say anything?
The only other thing that I could add is if people are out there and if you are sick and you can't get out, like I did, I sat on my tablet and I sent out emails and Facebook. I didn't have to go outside of my house. I didn't have to leave my bed, except for to plug my charger in. So, even if you can just do that and get their attention, it's just that easy. You don't have to leave it to the people who are well enough to be out there physically, but, let us know who you are so we can represent you. But you can do that too. You can do it from right there in your home.
Well, Carla, thank you so much for calling in. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have another caller from area code 682. What's your name and where are you from?
Hi, I'm from Texas.
Hello, what's your name?
Sherry Martin.
Hi, Sherry. What's your question?
Well, I'm kind of concerned about, I've been a pain patient for 20 years now, and the question is about going to the hospital or having surgeries. How do we go about making sure that we get treated the correct way? I have a mother that's in the hospital right now. She just had a heart attack, and all they've offered her is Tylenol. I don't know. It kind of worries me if I ever have a surgery or if I get admitted to the emergency room, I won't be treated correctly.
Well, that's a very valid concern. This is you can see how this is spun out of control. The CDC regulations actually only say on the very first prescription that you take, it should not exceed 90 milligrams. There's nothing in there about post-operative, emergency rooms, or chronic treatment. So this is a reason to go to your legislator and say, look, what's going on? The CDC does not even have the regulatory authority to make any comments about prescription drugs, only the FDA. So you need to see Congress is the checks and balances for the executive branch. CDC, DEA, they're all executive branch. So you have a very valid point. And for surgery, I tell people if it's elective surgery, you tell the physician, I want ahead of time my schedule of pain medicines. And if they say you're not getting any, you stand up and you say, tell you what, cancel the surgery, and when your ethics return, let me know, and leave.
And Sherry, you might just
want to... Any surgeon that would deny people pain medicine after they've cut them open ought to be taken out to the woodshed, as far as I'm concerned. So,
absolutely.
Sherry, you might just want to turn down your radio in the background, FYI.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. There you go. Much better. Did you have any other questions or comments? Much better.
No, I think he answered that. Thank you, though. I do want to put a shout out to Valorie and the C50 groups with the knowledge that they are given to everybody. It's a
Thank you, sir.
It has, when I first got into the pain groups, I knew none of that. Yeah. And there still are a lot of chronic pain patients or chronically ill patients that still, don't have any idea that all this is going on.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sherry, for calling in tonight. Appreciate it.
Sure, thank you.
Love to your mom.
Well, we have another caller from area code 808. What's your name and where are you from? Hello, caller from area...
Me?
Yes. Hi.
Area code 808?
Yep, that's you. What's your name?
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Paige.
Hi, Paige.
Hi.
What's your question?
I heard that Valorie was saying that she's going to be coming out to the islands. And I was wondering if that was a part-time visit to meet with care providers or legislature. I do live in the islands, and we have a pain patient bill of rights in Hawaii. We fought hard for it with our state legislature. It seems to be being ignored. Emergency rooms aren't even aware of it. And many doctors are aware of it, but we're being told, of course, the CDC guidelines at a federal level trump anything at the state level. And, of course, the wholesale supplies will stop the pharmacies. And, yes, everyone's being tapered back regardless of diagnosis, treatment, how many years across the board, VA, civilians, everyone's being tapered back, as doctors said. So I just wanted to see I could DM Valorie if she doesn't want to broadcast it, if I know where to do that. And I wondered if Doctor had any suggestions on those of us who have fought hard for pain patient Bill of Rights over the years. I've always thought if we could do this at a federal level, if we had some venue to do this. I mean, I know the odds are stacked against us. Are there any thoughts?
Well, that's a great idea. The California Bill of Rights is also being ignored. You have to remember that this is a wildfire of prejudice and hatred for dope addicts. See, the old words, the dope fiends. And it's carried over now to the other 10 million people that have painful disease. It's an hysteria. The best way to fight it is get as many people as possible to their legislators. But if you want one of my articles, you can Google the word medium. The second one is Hoary, Houry. Third word, Kline. Medium, Hoary, Kline. Dr. Hoary is the head of the division that wrote the guidelines. And in that piece that you'll Google, it has her exact words, and it has the exact words of the CDC guidelines, and there is nothing in there about cutoffs for people other than the very first prescription. It's not in there. And you can take that document, it's only 2 pages, and give it to your doctors, or send it ahead of time, as we said, and say, wait a minute here. You just told me the CDC is saying you have to taper. Where is it? There's 50 pages, and you can instantly find it on your cell phone or your tablet. Just Google CDC guidelines. It'll pop up, all 50 pages. Here's the 50 pages, doctor. Where is it in here? And you can start off with my little piece, where the head of the division, Dr. Hoary, as states on the very first day they came out, this is only the very first dosage of medicine. So it's not in the CDC regulations. And people need to have their nose pushed in it. Don't you taper my medicines until you show me where it is in the CDC regulations. And start becoming aggressive.
Well, I always say proactive, not aggressive. I'm in a small, limited community, as an isolated state is. So we have only so many very professional pain clinics and doctors who specialize in pain medicine. So I learned not to burn your bridges, but if you can, ally and work together with the pain care professionals and make it a common cause. So I'm always careful to not alienate anyone and to approach it as a collaborative effort. Bringing awareness over the hysteria is a really good point. I'm appreciative of you broadcasting that and sharing it with others. That's important news. As far as any site beyond this, if the CDC really does not, and I trust you, it does not say that, how do we get through the hysteria with pharmacists' wholesale supplies being cut back and doctors' fear of the DEA? There's still a cloud of hysteria that we're going to have to push through.
Yeah,
that's where we're working to try to change this narrative. We need enough pain patients coming forward, speaking with the media, and showing our policymakers and our media that we're not high, we're not addicts, and that there's a difference. We're in a different situation. I just want to answer your question. I lived on Oahu for about 15 years, and I now have a house on the Big Island. So I'll be moving over permanently this fall. So hoping to get involved when I get over there. But yeah, we have a big battle, a really big battle, and it could be a long one.
The County Medical Society is another good thing that we just talked about before, especially if you live in a small rural area. say, we would like to come and speak at the County Medical Society. And you could take along the CDC guidelines, and, you could take a little ammunition to hand out to the doctors and just do a very nice presentation and say, we just want to let you know how it is for us with these long-term painful diseases. And Valerie mentioned before, always stress your function. Don't talk about your pain. Say that my discomfort is so bad, it takes me 20 minutes to get out of bed. When I was put on medicines, I got out of bed in 2 minutes. Then when they took me off again, now I can't function again. That's a good part of the story you can tell.
Sure, I agree. I agree. And I stress with other patients, I think it's with the disabled, it's common tendency for people to begin with, this is my diagnosis. I have this, and this. And that just glosses over people's eyes because they don't relate. They don't understand the terms. If you can get a one-on-one connection with them, if you can talk about your abilities over your disabilities, how you've been helped, how you want to be as functional as you can be, I agree 100%. I'm going to let you go on to the next caller. Valorie, I hope to connect with you. I, too, am on the Big Island. I commute to Honolulu for all my medical care.
Okay.
So
my email is on the on Janelle's page. So or you can contact me through Facebook as well. Okay. Thank you for calling.
Thank you, and thank you, Doctor. I've been following your articles on Medium for a while now, so thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for calling in.
Aloha.
Aloha. Well, we're going to wrap up here. Sorry for all the people that I didn't get to. They dropped off now, though. But usually we would get to you. So either just stay on or not. But I wanted to wrap this up, but let you both have the last word. So, Dr. Kline, what would you like to share before we get going here tonight?
Tell your stories.
Okay.
The media, newspapers, TV stations, anybody that you can get, send emails like the lady mentioned, and get some reporters out there and visit your state and federal legislators. Call them up and say, look, I just need 15 minutes of your time with your healthcare legislator. There's something very seriously wrong with our healthcare system. We are being denied healthcare.
Valerie?
So,
what would you like to add?
I would say the same, but also find kindred spirits. You need to we need to recruit more of us to speak up. Even like the caller from Michigan said, if you can't get out to a meeting, maybe we can arrange. If some of us are meeting, we can Skype or Facebook you in. There's ways to do this from your bed. I'm horizontal 23 hours a day. I'm on the couch with my monitor. I leave the house rarely. And there's a lot you can do from your computer. And so really, join with other pain patients and educate yourself and be mindful of what you say and, how you act. And we have to change this public perception. And we do have, we have a battle, but we have to get, we have to get everybody together. And, if you can't write, see if one of your family members can write, your neighbors. And I know there's a stigma. I know it's scary. I never wanted my name out there. I didn't want to lead anything. None of that. I didn't want any of this. I would rather be, sitting in Hawaii at the beach. And, but this is something we have to do. If we don't speak up, if you still have medication, we're all one appointment away, one DEA letter, one short. We don't know how the DEA manufacturing cuts are going to affect us. We're already having shortages. Are they going to run out? What are they going to run out of next? So this could affect every single pain patient in our country, and already Canada, and it's spreading to Australia, and I wouldn't doubt if it gets worldwide. So we have to work together, and we have to keep on our policymakers, and we have a lot of things coming up in Congress. We've got a big hearing Thursday. If you live around the D.C. area, contact us. we'll help you. There's a lot of advocacy groups out there. We all need people. We all need bodies. We all need, help running these organizations. We need bodies to send these letters, and we need numbers of people. And, and try to keep your spirits up. I mean, it's bad enough being ill, fighting our pain, and now having to fight our government and our doctors and everything else. It's tragic. And I wonder every day how history is going to write about this. What are they going to say? Because it sounds like a conspiracy theory. It really sounds like a conspiracy theory. But it's real, and it's here, and it could get worse before it gets better, especially if there's not enough of us together saying the same thing and telling our stories. We have to work together.
Well, thank you so much, Valorie and Dr. Kline, for coming on tonight and sharing your invaluable information. I really appreciate you coming on, and we had a ton of great comments and everything like that, and they're still coming in. So if we get anything and somebody who needs to know, I will send it to you. But thank you both for coming in tonight.
Thank you, Janelle and Dr. Kline.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I hope you have a great night. And I want to say thank you for joining us this evening on the Doctor's Corner with Dr. Kline. Carnation, you are awesome. Don't forget to tune back in tomorrow evening at 8/7 Central with Harvard graduate civil rights attorney Kate Nicholson. I'm Janelle Elgoy, and have a great evening, Carnation.
You've been listening to The Doctor's Corner with Dr. Kline and Janelle Elgoy. Copyright 2018 by EXG LLC. All rights reserved.